Good morning, everyone. Welcome to arts class.
Do you want to know?
So before proceeding to our arts class, let's have a short recap of what we had discussed last week. So we have discussed the two periods of music, which are the medieval period and we have the Renaissance period. The medieval period is also known as the Middle Ages or the Dark Age, that started with the fall of the Roman Empire. During this time, the Christian Church influenced Europe's culture and political affairs. The most famous chant of this time is the monophonic plain chant that was named after Pope Gregory I, who made this the approved music of the Catholic Church. During the latter part of the medieval period, secular music which was not bound by Catholic traditions emerged. Most of these songs were performed across Europe by groups of musicians called Troubadours. One of the most famous composers of the medieval period is Adam de la Halle. He was one of the oldest secular composers whose literary and musical works include chansons and poetic debates. The music of the Renaissance period. The term Renaissance comes from the word renaître, which means rebirth, revival, and rediscovery. The Renaissance period is a period of looking back to the golden age of Greece and Rome. Vocal music of the Renaissance period. So there are two types of vocal music of the Renaissance period. We have the first one, Mass. Mass is a form of sacred musical composition that sets texts of the Eucharistic liturgy into music. There are 5 main sections of Mass. The first one, we have the Kyrie or Lord have mercy. The second one, we have Gloria, glory to God in the highest. The third, we have Credo, I believe in one God. The fourth one, we have Sanctus and Benedictus, holy, holy, blessed is He. And we have the last one, Agnus Dei, Lamb of God. The second type of a vocal music in the Renaissance period, we have the Madrigal. Madrigal is a secular vocal polyphonic music composition which originated from Italy. One of the famous composers of the Renaissance period is we have Giovanni Pierluigi da Palestrina. He is said to be the greatest master of Roman Catholic Church music during the Renaissance period. Majority of his compositions are sacred music. The second one is we have Thomas Morley. Morley was born in Norwich, East England, and the son of a brewer. Thomas Morley was the most famous composer of secular music in his time. So that is all for our short recap. So what are you waiting for? Let's start digging up the artifacts of prehistoric era. Did you know that prehistoric includes all human existence before the emergence of writing? Their art is of interest not only to the art historians but also to archaeologists and anthropologists, for whom art is only one clue along with fossils, pollens, and other finds to an understanding of early human life and culture. Prehistoric paintings were found inside the caves, which may have been their way of communicating with each other. These paintings may be more of an artifact of the archaeological evidence than a true picture of humans' first created art. Prehistoric drawings of animals were usually correct in proportion. Prehistoric sculptures vary according to region and locality. Archaeologists believed that their sculpture is a result of natural erosion and not of human artistry. One of the examples of these sculptures is we have the Venus of Willendorf. It is carved from limestone with excessively heavy breasts and abdomen used as charm to ensure fertility. The second one is we have the Venus of Brasimpoi. Musée d'Archéologie Nationale at Saint Germain in Laye. This is now 25 years old. A sculpture of a lady with a hood. It is a fragmentary ivory figurine from the Upper Paleolithic era that realistically represents the human face and hairstyle. In the prehistoric architecture, man has developed a form of architecture based on megaliths, a big rock from the Greek word lithos, stone, and megas, big. This architecture is made of huge stone blocks which were probably intended for burial. We have three main types of megalith stones. The first one we have menhir, a huge stone standing vertically on the ground, usually standing in the middle of the field or arranged in rows. The second one we have dolmens. The word dolmen originated from the expression means stone table. These structures are in a form of table consisting of two huge standing stones supporting a horizontal giant stone. It is believed that it served as a grave or as an altar. The third one we have cromlech, a Brythonic word where crom means bent or curved and lek which means slab or flagstones. So it is a circle of standing stones. Stonehenge, best preserved megalithic site in Europe, a group of stones arranged in concentric circles with a large external circle of trilets, Greek word meaning for three stones, two internal circles built in a similar manner and altar-shaped stone in the center. It is a temple where rituals were held. The structure and the movement of the sun in the sky has a relationship in terms of identifying the change of the seasons, which helped the primitive man under rituals and under agricultural practices. So that's all for the prehistoric art. Thank you for listening.
And now that we have understood the earliest form of art in the ancient era, let's go to earlier than the ancient era, which is the classical art.
Do you want to know?
So we have three ancient civilizations that contributed to the form of art that we have now. We have the Egyptian, we have the Roman, and we have the Greek. So let's start understanding their form of art. Okay, one of the most successful ancient civilizations in the world is the Egyptian civilization. So let's find out why.
The ancient Egyptian civilization lasted for over 3,000 years and became one of the most powerful and iconic civilizations in history. At its height, ancient Egypt's empire stretched as far north as modern-day Syria and as far south as today's Sudan. But long before it was an empire, ancient Egypt was a series of small, independent city-states that bloomed along North Africa's Nile River. The city-states were divided into two regions and named according to the flow of the Nile. Upper Egypt in the south, which was upstream, and Lower Egypt in the north, which was downstream. By about 3100 BC, the two halves united, thereby creating one Egyptian state that lasted for millennia. The reign of this civilization can be divided into three major periods of prosperity, called the Old, Middle, and New Kingdoms, and two periods of instability in between, called the First and Second Intermediate Periods. Guiding the Egyptian people was a succession of about 300 rulers, often referred to as pharaohs. Pharaoh, which means great house in Egyptian, was never the ruler's formal title. It only became synonymous with the ruling individual in modern times, thanks to its use in the Hebrew Bible. These rulers, who were not always men, nor Egyptian, were considered protectors of the people and served as divine liaisons between humanity and the hundreds of gods they worshipped. After the rulers passed away, ancient Egyptians believed they then became gods. To prepare their journey into the afterlife, the rulers constructed elaborate tombs, including the Great Pyramids at Giza and underground mausoleums in the Valley of the Kings. Rulers filled their tombs with all the items they could need in the afterlife, including gold, jewelry, food, drink, and even pets. Preparing for this journey to the gods also involved mummifying one's body. The deceased's corpse was embalmed, wrapped in hundreds of yards of linen, and placed inside the tomb so the body could be reanimated in the afterlife. To this day, structures like the Great Pyramids are a testament to the role of religion in ancient Egyptians' lives. But they also represent the innovative and cultural might of the Egyptian people. Innovations in mathematics and written language in particular propelled their civilization to success. Math, specifically measurement mathematics, helped Egyptians understand and harness their world with numbers like no other civilization had before. They developed a new form of measurement called the cubit. It was used to design massive structures, such as the Great Pyramid, with remarkable geometrical precision. The Egyptians also measured time. By combining mathematics with astronomy, they established a 24-hour division to the day and created a solar calendar, which was the first dating system in history to feature 365 days in one year. Lastly, Egyptians developed methods to measure and survey land around the Nile River. These civil engineering feats made way for the construction of dams, canals, and irrigation systems that helped farming and agriculture to flourish in the Nile Valley. In addition to mathematical concepts, the ancient Egyptians also created written languages to describe the world around them. The oldest and probably most well-known of these is hieroglyphic writing. This system was developed around 3150 BC during the Old Kingdom and has over 700 pictorial characters. It was used to inscribe monuments and pottery and predominantly served a decorative or ceremonial purpose. Soon after, another ancient form of writing, called hieratic, developed out of the hieroglyphic system. It was a form of cursive that was written in ink and served a more functional purpose. Unlike its more formal predecessor, hieratic was written on another ancient Egyptian innovation, papyrus. Papyrus was a type of paper derived from the papyrus plant, which grew plentifully along the Nile River. This medium gave the ancient Egyptians a new avenue of communication and record-keeping that allowed their civilization's administrative skill to grow and their culture to spread for thousands of years. As with all great empires, ancient Egypt came to an end. It was eventually conquered after a series of invasions, including those by the Persian Empire in the 4th century BC and the Roman Empire around 30 BC. Not many civilizations can claim a lifespan of over 3,000 years, let alone one that made vast cultural contributions that still resonate in modern times. Ancient Egypt, with its linguistic and mathematical innovations, spirituality and religion, and extensive political and military might, set a high standard for all civilizations that followed.
The purpose of Egyptian paintings is to make the deceased afterlife place pleasant. With this in mind, themes include journey to the underworld, introducing the deceased to the gods of the underworld by their protective deities. It emphasizes the importance of life after death and the preservation of the knowledge of the past. Most paintings were highly stylized, symbolic, and shows profile view of an animal or a person. The main colors used were red, black, blue, gold, and green, taken derived from mineral pigments that can withstand strong sunlight without fading. One of the most famous Egyptian art is the painting from Sarcophagus of Tatankamen. The paintings of the walls on the tomb shows events of the life of the king while he was still on earth and the scenes he expects to encounter in the underworld after his death. In Egyptian sculptures, symbolic elements were widely used such as forms, hieroglyphics, relative size, location, materials, color, actions, and gestures. Their tombs require the most extensive use of sculpture. The most common materials used for sculptures are wood, ivory, and stone. One of the most famous sculptures in Egyptian art is the Queen Nefertiti painted limestone from the 18th dynasty, 1375 to 1357 BC. So this is a realistic with a heavy lidded eyes, slender neck, determined chin, and pure profile under her heavy crown. Queen refers to the great royal wife of the Egyptian pharaoh. The second one is the pharaoh Menkaure and his queen, stone 4th dynasty from 2548 to 2530 BCE. So an example of portraits represented in rigid postures and were simple and powerful with very little show of private emotion. In Egyptian architecture, the architectural style was developed during the pre-dynastic period 4000 BC. Some of the characteristics of Egyptian architecture is the structure has thick sloping walls with few openings to obtain stability. The exterior and interior walls along with columns and piers were covered with hieroglyphics and pictorial frescoes and carvings painted in brilliant colors. Ornamentations were symbolic, including scarab or sacred beetle, solar disk, and vulture. Common motifs like palm leaves, buds, flowers, and papyrus plants. One of the famous architectural buildings in Egypt are the pyramids. So we have the Pyramid of Giza. It is the most substantial ancient structure of the world. The three pyramids are the funerary structures of the three kings of the 4th dynasty, namely Khufu or Chops, whom the Great Pyramid was attributed to, Kaffa or Chephren, whom the pyramid next to the Great Pyramid is attributed, and the smallest is attributed to Menkora or Mycerinus. These pyramids were made highly confusing and with many tunnels to create confusion for grave robbers. Another one is the mastaba. It is a type of Egyptian tomb in the form of flat-roofed rectangular structure with outward sloping sides. It was made of mud bricks or stones. So those are the highlights of the Egyptian arts. Let's go to the Greek art.
Do you want to know?
Art, philosophy, democracy, and heroes. These are just a few achievements of the legendary civilization known as ancient Greece. Ancient Greece was born on the shores of the Aegean Sea about 4,000 years ago. In over a millennium, it expanded to lands as far west as Spain and as far east as India. Throughout this age of empire, the ancient Greeks made political, militaristic, and cultural achievements that resonated long after their empire fell. Part of the ancient Greeks' legacy involved politics, one of which was the political system of Greece itself. Unlike many nations that were under unified rule, Greece was a collection of over 1,500 territories that acted as sovereign nations. Called city-states, these territories had their own rulers and sometimes fought each other. Another political development was the institution of the first large-scale democracy. Developed in the city-state of Athens, democratic rule was a way to give the Greek people representation and political power. The Greeks also earned a strong reputation for their military. The military helped expand the Greek Empire by establishing colonies overseas, and it protected Greece itself from foreign invaders like the Persian Empire. When such a threat occurred, city-states united to defend their homeland. Many Greeks, particularly in Sparta, took immense pride in their military and regarded their soldiers as heroes. Their heroism was often turned into legend thanks to literary works like the Iliad. War heroes also inspired the creation of the Olympics, which celebrated physical competition. Of all aspects of ancient Greek civilization, their cultural contributions left a considerable mark on the Western world. Particularly noteworthy were the ancient Greeks' art and architecture. They created incredible sculptural works, such as standing figures and reliefs. Plus, they developed 3 types of columns and incorporated them to structures like the Parthenon. This artistry was imitated by other civilizations and spread throughout the globe for thousands of years. How the Greeks interpreted the world was also reflected in other cultures. Greek religion, which was comprised of many anthropomorphic deities, helped shape the spiritual beliefs of the Etruscans and later the ancient Romans. Greek philosophy, which explored matters of reason, ethics, and natural law, influenced later civilizations' achievements in politics and science. Greek language made quite an impact as well. Ancient Greek, at about 3,400 years old, provided the basis of many modern languages. The English language alone has thousands of words with Greek roots. Ancient Greece's artistry, regard for heroes, and democratic rule left a considerable impression on world history. With contributions that lasted for millennia, the civilization of ancient Greece is nothing short of legendary.
Paintings from the classical Greek era were most commonly found in vases, panels, and tombs. It depicts natural figures with dynamic compositions. Most of the subjects were battle scenes, mythological figures, and everyday scenes. It reveals a grasp of linear perspective and naturalist representation. There are different methods of Greek painting. The first one is the fresco. A fresco is a method of painting water-based pigments on a freshly applied plaster, usually on a wall surfaces. Colors are made with grind powder pigments in pure water, dry and set with a plaster to become a permanent part of the wall. Ideal for murals, durable and has a matte style. The next one is the Incow Stick. It is developed to use by Greek ship builders who used the hot wax to fill the cracks of the ship. Soon, pigments or colors was added and used to paint a wax hull. They have also the vase painting or Kirk style, also referred to as Kirk vases, or red figured pottery named after the place where it was found. Shapes commonly found are pilaik, wine container, likanes, a low bowl with two horizontal handles and a low broad foot, lebis gamikos, with high handles and lid used to carry bridal bath, crater, bowl used for mixing wine and water. They have also panel painting. There are paintings on flat panels of wood. It can be either a small, single piece or several panels joined together. Most of the panel paintings no longer exist because of its organic composition. The earliest known panel painting is the pizza panel, the archaic period between 540 and 530 BCE. They have also tomb or wall painting, which is very popular during the classical period. It uses the method frescoes, either tempera or water-based, or encaustic or wax. It is a sharp, flatly outlined style of painting, and because it uses water-based materials, very few samples survived. Greek sculptures. Early Greek sculptures were tense and stiff. Their bodies were hidden within enfolding robes. After 3 centuries of experiments, Greek sculptures had finally evolved and showed all the points of human anatomy and proportion. One of the most popular styles of the Greek sculpture was the Hellenistic style. Hellenistic denotes a preference in sculpture for more elaborated patterns, mannered arrangement of figures and groups, and an emphasis on the representation of movement for dramatic effects. One of its examples is the Myron, or the Discobulus. Shows an attitude of maximum tension, full of compressed energy and about to explode in action. Greek architecture. Temples consisted of a central shrine or room in an aisle surrounded by rows of columns. These buildings were designed in one of 3 architectural styles or orders. We have the Doric, the Ionic, and Corinthian. One of its famous architectural design is the Parthenon in Athens, the greatest classical temple ingeniously engineered to correct an optical illusion. The columns were slightly contorted, swollen at the center, and leaning inward to correct what would otherwise have been an impression of deadness and top heaviness. So those are the highlights of the Greek art. Let's go to the Roman art.
Do you want to know?
The story of ancient Rome is a story of evolution. of how a civilization's ability to adapt and dominate can lead to its survival for over 1,000 years. Rome began as a small village on central Italy's Tiber River. In the coming centuries, it grew into an empire that stretched from the North Atlantic all the way to the Persian Gulf. During this transformation, Rome displayed a political, military, and cultural prowess that enabled it to become a superpower and helped shape what would become known as Western civilization. The lifespan of ancient Rome can be divided into 3 major periods: the regal, the republican, and the imperial. During the regal period, Rome was monarchical and ruled by a succession of about 7 kings. Rome's first king, according to legend, was a man named Romulus. He and his twin brother Remus are said to have founded Rome in 753 BC. In 509 BC, Rome adopted a republican system of governance in which the state was primarily ruled by 2 annually elected representatives called praetors, who were later called consuls. One of them became a famous general and dictator, Julius Caesar. The imperial period followed. It was characterized by the rise of the Roman Empire and notorious leaders such as Octavian, Rome's first emperor, who ushered in an era of peace, and Nero, who, some scholars believe, was Rome's cruelest emperor. Rome's focus and pride in its military was vital to the civilization's growth, and this ethos was evident as early as the regal period, when Rome was only a small village. Still, Rome slowly conquered and annexed neighboring peoples. This slow and steady expansion eventually led to the Romans' domination of the Italian peninsula and the entire Mediterranean Sea, where they conquered the Greeks, Egyptians, and Carthaginians. Military conquests would later help Rome conquer lands as far away as Britain and Iraq. This massive scale and growing populace necessitated advancements in Roman engineering. Aqueducts were constructed, which increased the public's access to water, helped improve public health, and paved the way for Rome's famed bathhouses. A 50,000-mile-long road system was built as well. While made originally for the military, it facilitated the movement of people and ideas throughout the empire. This transmission of ideas and increased contact with diverse cultures also enabled other aspects of Roman culture to evolve. A key to Rome's success and longevity was the empire's inclusion of cultures from the lands they conquered. From the nearby land of Latium, Rome acquired the Latin language, which became the empire's official language and the ancestor to Europe's Romance languages. Romans also adopted cultural aspects from the ancient state of Etruria, including their religion, alphabet, and the spectacle of gladiator combat. However, no other civilization influenced the Romans as much as the ancient Greeks. Their influence is probably most apparent in Rome's art and architecture. Upper-class Romans commissioned paintings and sculptures to imitate Greek art. Greek architectural styles, such as columns, were implemented in Roman structures, such as the Pantheon and Colosseum. One cultural shift in particular that resonated throughout the empire was the rise of Christianity. Originating in the Middle East, the religion found a strong advocate in Constantine I, the first Roman emperor to convert to Christianity. He enabled Rome's transition into a Christian state and encouraged the religion to spread across Europe. By the 4th century, after a lifespan of over a millennium, the Roman Empire declined. Factors including political corruption, economic crises, and class conflict led to the empire's decay from within, while invasions and other military threats caused it to break down from outside. Rome's ability to incorporate diverse cultures, dominate rivals, and adapt political systems to the needs of its people are all lessons to be learned for time eternal.
Roman paintings. Most of the paintings in this era were copied or imitated from Hellenic Greek paintings. Fresco technique was used in brightly colored backgrounds, division of the wall into multiple rectangular areas, tic-tac-toe design, multi-point perspective, and a Tropme-oil effect. Roman paintings have a wide variety of subjects: animals, everyday life, still life, mythological subjects, portraits, and landscapes. The development of landscape painting is the main innovation of Roman painting from Greek painting. One of its innovations is the mosaic. It is an art process where an image is created using an assemblage of small pieces of colored glass, stones, or other materials. This technique used for decorative art or interior decoration. We have another one, fresco from the Villa of Mysteries, Pompeii 80 BC. The full image is a Roman floor mosaic in the house of Fan Pompey, dated 100 BC. The whole mosaic depicts the battle between the armies of Alexander the Great and Darius III of Persia. Another fresco, Bosco Trecase Pompey. This fresco painting was believed to depict the ceremonial rites, either marriage or an initiation of a woman in a mystery cult. Roman sculptures. Most Roman sculptures are made of monumental terracotta. They did not attempt to compete with the freestanding Greek works of history or mythology, but rather they produced reliefs in the great Roman triumphal column with continuous narrative reliefs around. Example of this one is the Pertinacio sarcophagus between 180 and 190 BCE. Used for the burial of Roman general involved in the campaign of Marcus Aurelius, the best known and most elaborate of all sarcophagus. So sarcophagus, it is a box-like funeral receptacle for a dead body. Comes from a Greek word sarx meaning flesh and phagen meaning to eat. It depicts battle scenes between Romans and Germans, carved in marble. Another sarcophagus is from Sarvetiri, from 520 BCE. Made of terracotta, and its length is 6'7" or 2.6 meters, a husband and wife are shown reclining comfortably as if they were on a couch. Roman architecture. They built sturdy stone structures both for use and to perpetuate their glory. The emperors erected huge halls and arenas for public games, baths, and procession. They built them of gigantic arches of stone, bricks, and concrete or with burial vaults. Example of this one is the Colosseum AD 70 to 82 in Rome. So that's it. I hope you have learned something, and God bless on your activities. So if you have your questions, you can ask me on our GC during our scheduled time. Thank you and goodbye.
Do you want to know?